G'day fellas and welcome to an FFA guide. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Chinese, the OG Chinese in the FFA and exactly how you want to try and play them. So this is a game where we go up against some pretty decent players here and we don't necessarily have the best start, but we can still manage to pull out a pretty good game. So we're going to start off and we're going to move our villagers towards the edge of the map. We're going to be looking to, typically you want to stay away from your 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 9 o'clock positions on the clock. Try and move in between those two. So that's exactly where we look to go here. I spot a nice little place here with deer. So I say, you know what? We're going to just throw the town center right on top of it. Now, normally when you're playing the Chinese, you would never put a town center on top of a pack of deer. And that's because you'd have an imperial official to supervise it. But here, we don't start with an imperial official. We'd have to build one. So we're not adverse to throwing it down on top of the deer pack, just because this is going to be our starting food. So we might as well go ahead and do that. Now, you'll note that we don't have gold nearby. That is absolutely fine. We haven't found a wood line. That's okay, because we can always look to put down a lumber camp. We can always look to put down a gold mine. It's not imperative, or rather a mining camp. It's not imperative that we do find those immediately around us. So just mainly look for that source of food. The deer is going to be the most impactful, but obviously anything else that you can tack on or add on is going to be wonderful for you as well. So the next thing that you're going to be doing is what we're doing right here. So we've got all of our villagers moving towards the town center, but I've noticed that pink is kind of close because I've seen the trajectory that his villagers are running, and I've said, okay, we need to go and scout him out. We need to see exactly where he is, because as the Chinese, you've got a lot of tools in your arsenal to deal with early aggression, and obviously the most powerful one is the Barbican. So that's what we're going to be looking to do and utilize early on in this game. We've spotted out Pink down here to the south, and this is something that you've got to be very careful of because he's playing Joan of Arc. And Joan of Arc have the ability very early on in the game to cause a little bit of pain to you. So you need to be very careful when you look to strike Joan of Arc. And you need to make sure that if you do strike them, you go early. Sometimes you'll see Chinese players look to go for the Imperial Academy and then drop the Barbican on somebody. Whereas here we're going to be tackling it a little bit differently. Now, let's take a look at the map. It's a bit of a weird one. Huge wood lines through the middle of the map. Absolutely massive, which breaks it up almost like you've got two separate maps. You've got green and teal that have spawned over in the corner, myself and pink who have spawned down here. Then we've got orange who's pretty much all alone over here, and then these three are all kind of close together at the top of the map. So that's the spawn. When it comes to, you know, who's got the best spawn, I'd probably say blue. It seems like he's got a pretty decent spawn up here towards the north of the map. He's going to be on the Chinese, so he's got a great little spot, you know, natural defense over here across the map is going to be very, very nice for him. It goes the entirety of the map with the exception of maybe just a little bit of a break here and down towards this position. And of course, it does open up down at the bottom as well. So we're going to open up with a sheep. And one of the things that we do is we move towards where we know there are sheep, but also towards our opponent to deny them of those sheep. And then from there, we're just going to move towards the middle of the map to pick up the sheep. So we've just denied him 2,000 food, which is pretty nice. Very, very handy because we've also just taken that 2,000 food for ourselves. And we've got 5 vills on food. We're looking to now get our Barbican up nice and early. Now, as I said before, you can kind of mix and match this, right? You don't have to go for a Barbican early. You can definitely go for the Imperial Academy. It will depend on how close you are to your opponent and whether it's a good idea to Barbican them or not. So we'll take a look as we'll speed it up a little bit. Now, one other thing to note is that teal is relatively close to me as well. So this was definitely a Barbican candidate. But the one thing to note is that with green here, he's not going to be too much of a worry about it. And on top of that, we didn't actually know he was there. And this is a stealth forest map, so it can be difficult scouting on this map because you're quite restricted when it comes to your starting villagers about the line of sight that you've got. So that's another thing to note. But we're now going to work towards that Barbican. We're going to here we're going to be doing a Barbican rush, and this is very intentional. I've done this. Normally, I probably wouldn't do this in this situation. I would go for a little bit more of a defensive Barbican, but my thinking was this, okay? I need to defend gold. I also need to defend stone and wood. I don't really have a good stone and wood other than this, so I can put my Barbican here, or I can put my Barbican on this back gold, which is quite nice. Or I can just drop it down in his face, which kind of, you know, what we want is we want to drop, ideally what we want to do is we want to drop the Barbican on someone's face, and we want them to react to that. We want them to build battering rams. We want them to build archers. That's what we want them to do. And the hope is that we're going to delay them from eventually coming over and attacking us, and we want to delay them enough for that. That's the plan. So we're conscious of Joan of Arc. We know that it's going to be very, very soon before she is up. You can see not long at all to go with regard to her XP. She's sitting at 465, 469 at the moment. She's building this lumber camp. So we need to get this Barbican up quickly. So we're going to deny it or put it in a spot that looks to be as advantageous for us as possible. We're going to deny gold. We deny 2 sets of stone. We deny this stone as well. We deny all the food along this top side and basically restrict to where these villages can be to just the back side of the town center. So this is a very difficult Barbican, and there's almost no way that this Barbican is going to get denied, not with 12 villages. On top of that, we're also going to make sure that we bring the scout up to help in the event that we want to go for the Barbican. And now with that Barbican coming up, this is where we can just get very, very annoying for the opponent, because there's a good chance we might take out a villager or two. You can see there's quite a couple here. A little bit of a mistake from me not to garrison into the Barbican, because these are free villagers. We probably could have taken out 2 or 3 villagers there if we just focused the villager in the villagers instead of Jean. So now that we've got the Barbican up, the next focus for us is getting into Song Dynasty. This is really important, and it's a key step for us playing as the Chinese. We want to get out of Tang Dynasty very, very quickly, because while Tang Dynasty is wonderful, you get an extra bit of line of sight. Song Dynasty is where it's at, because you get that extra villager production speed. So you really want to try and get to that as quickly as possible. So naturally, we're going to be bringing out 5 villagers out here, because we do have Joan of Arc on the prowl. She's going to be looking to try and take down some villagers here, and this is part of in this game. I did come to regret this Barbican, especially because Pink didn't react the way that I wanted Pink to react to taking this Barbican out. Pink was very, very passive in this game with regard to the Barbican, which was the right call. Normally, what you want to do is just avoid it. So now we know that Joan is on the way. We're going to bring back the scout here. And let's focus a little bit more on what we're doing. So our goal here is to get to 2 town centers. Our goal is to get to Song Dynasty. Our goal is to get to Castle Age. So that's pretty much it. 2 TC, Song Dynasty, Castle Age. One of the other things that we want to look to do is get a farm transition in. We want to try and prioritize our farm transition as we're aging up to castle. Now, if you've got plenty of food, absolutely no need to do it. But in our situation, we don't really have a whole lot of food. We know that we'll get to castle age with roughly the food that we've got here, but we are definitely going to need a bit more if we do want to make units once we're up. So unfortunately, we're a little bit short on gold. We're going to do our best to micro our villagers here. We know that this one's pretty much dead just because Joan's so fast, 1.38 movement speed. So this one's pretty much gone. So we just want to leave this, or lead this vill away with Joan and then keep the other one safe. So we've lost 1 vill now to Joan, but that's okay. We keep our heads up and we keep on moving towards our goal. So remember, our goal is towards Song Dynasty. So we just want to be gathering up our gold here. So we've gathered up enough now for Song Dynasty. We'll need to get an Imperial Official. At the moment, we don't really have anything that the Imperial Official would be able to do or would be able to work on. You can see that Joan's having a tough time here because of the stealth forest. She can't really see into the base. So we can gather from these trees and we can always feel relatively safe as long as we know roughly where Joan is, because we know that she won't have line of sight unless the scout is with her, but we know roughly where that scout is. So now we continue moving forward. We're going to be looking at getting that second town center down. So keep in mind, and I think this is part of the reason why this is a great example of it, is because this is not just an easy game. This isn't a straightforward game, you know, 2 town center, Song Dynasty, fast castle, kill everybody with palace guards. Because, you know, you've seen plenty of those games before. This is a little bit more nuanced than that. So we'll keep on moving forward. And one of the key things to remember here is we want to avoid making units in the feudal age. We don't want to make Juggernaut, we don't want to make horsemen, we don't want to make spears. You can see we copped an arrow right there from Joan, so immediately I'm kind of backing out here. Just doing our best to keep all of our vills alive. We want to avoid losing them at all costs, and still working towards that. Now, I would recommend don't go more than 2 TCs. 2 TCs is enough. You can always add a 3rd TC once you get your first kill, add a 3rd, add a 4th TC. 2 TCs is more than enough in FFA to start it off. People are slowly working out the meta in FFA. And there were a couple games there where, like, quite early on, I went for like 8 TCs because I had all this space. It's just not worth it. You got to get out on the map. You got to start making some noise. So now that we've got enough resources for our second TC, we're going to go ahead and put that down. We're going to put it in a position that allows us to defend a resource. So even though Joan's going to be down here and she's going to look to try and take out our villagers, what we're going to do is make sure we pull back any of the ones that she's focusing down. So here you can see these villagers are getting low. Makes it difficult for her to actually get the click off on her skill shot because the hitboxes kind of get messed up. So we still, at this stage, I think we've only lost the 1 villager, which is pretty good. And now from here, we work towards our age up. So we want to get our castle age coming through as quickly as possible, because once we get castle age, we get access to palace guards, and it's going to be much easier for us to defend. We'll also have access to nest of bees, which will be very nice. Now, if we go take a look at Joan and see exactly what she's up to, you can see she's got this nice little spot where she can just kind of pick off vills. That's the second vill that's coming down, so I'm not really paying attention down here. We want to be moving all these low health vills away from Joan. But meanwhile, behind this, we do have a second town center that's come through from Joan, and I think she's going to be looking towards that castle age as well, just judging by this play, which is exactly the right move. You know, I would say in this position, Joan has played this perfectly. Nice little walla attempt up here. Gilded Knight's going to come in and defend. Relics are getting slowly picked up here by the Order of the Dragon player. So, yeah, I would say that Joan's played this perfectly, right? Like, she's got a secondary gold that's up here. I wish I had realized this gold was up here, because then I probably would have, instead of denying this stone, I would have put the Barbican, like, right there and then denied out both of this golds. But she's got this gold in the back, so she'd be fine anyway. But really, exactly what she wants to be doing. The only problem I would say is that she's collecting a little bit too much wood, wants to try and prioritize that age up a little bit more. So, let's ride on board with us again. And now one of the things that we'll look to do is get upgrades. So we've got quite a few vills here on gold, which is intentional. We want to have about 10 vills on gold, and that's going to allow us to get upgrades. Unfortunately, Joan survives here with like 2 health. We almost managed to take her out, but it wasn't to be. And so now, because we're kind of struggling with food, we're throwing down farms. And you look at this farming position and you think, well, that's not optimal. That's not 3 granary farms, and that's okay. When you're in difficult circumstances like the one that we currently find ourselves in, it's absolutely fine to just throw farms around a town center. Do not be alarmed. Do not be afraid. You don't have to. You can throw farms around your Imperial Academy for all I care. Okay, this is really nice to have in the early game. It's great to have in the late game if you can set it up. But at the same time, don't set it up as like don't follow these rules as hard and fast. Like, I always have to have 32 barracks around my Imperial Academy. No, you don't always have to do that. It's absolutely fine if you don't do it. So yeah, that's the thinking. So we managed to get our clock tower down. Not a bad little timing here, considering we've had to throw down farms during the transition as well. I would have loved to have had the opportunity to throw a granary down, but we don't really have the wood for it, and I don't think we've got the space for it. There's really nowhere that we could do it. Like, maybe down here is probably the best spot for it, especially because we've got the Barbican standing between us, but we throw a wall down instead. We look to be a little bit more defensive now. So now that we've worked our way to Castle Age, the question is, where do we go from here? We're up to 54 vills, so if we can compare that to Joan, Joan is on 40 vills, so we do have a nice little villager lead. We are going to lose another vill here. We've probably got a second vill here that we might lose as well, if we're not careful. Very good control here from Pink. So the age up's through. Where do we go from here? So the answer is whatever your resources allow you to do. In situations like this, what am I looking at with my resources? I'm like, okay, well, I don't have a lot of food. Number one priority is I want to keep making villages. Okay, that's my number one priority. I need to keep making as many villages as I can, which means that my food's going to be spent on that. So when it comes to my other resources, I need to spend those on units. And wonderfully, I've got the astronomical clock tower, which is going to allow me to start off making a nest of bees. And that should be enough to help defend me against Joan. If I get dived with a knight or something like that, then I can always look to repair it up with some villages and then kill with the town centers. So I should be fine in the event that I get attacked. One of the other things I'm going to be doing is looking to get upgrades, because I've got lots and lots and lots of gold, so I might as well be doing it. Now, one other thing that you need to be aware of or careful of is this right here. My Imperial Official is bugged. It's stuck. This one is supervising, and the other one just walks straight into it, and unfortunately, it doesn't pass through. It's just kind of stuck. So I don't think I fixed this for like 15 minutes. This was really unfortunate when it happens, because it's a huge amount of gold that you're just losing, right? Like, that's 300 gold that I could have in the bank, 60 gold that I could have in the bank right now. That's a lot of gold that I could just have sitting in my bank account that is not there because of this bug. So you do need to be aware of that. But nice little pick-off attempt, and you can see this is why we didn't go for that granary earlier, just because Joan's got so much pressure. But now that we've got the ability to move out onto the map, now that we've got the nest of bees to force these units back, this is where we can say, okay, I'm going to be able to take these granaries now. We're going to continue with production. We're going to add in Iraqs. We're going to look to add in infantry. So it's very similar to the Holy Roman Empire, the way that you play the Chinese in the Castle Age. It's only in the Imperial Age that you start adding in ranged units. I mean, you can add crossbows in. That's absolutely fine as well. But I typically just like to go big on siege in the Castle Age as the Chinese. So let's speed it up a little bit. So here is our next transition. So if we think of this as like a game plan, it generally follows the following. So 2 town centers, or rather Song Dynasty, 2 town centers, Castle Age, farm transition, and then after the farm transition, that's when we get our barracks down. That's when we look to get online all of our palace guards. Now, you don't have to do the farm transition beforehand. You can do it after, or you can do it during. It's up to you. It depends on your spawn. It depends the kind of resources you've got available. Here, I had a deer pack and 8 sheep. So that's not really a lot of food. But if you're in a situation where you've got, you know, maybe you're playing in this north spawn as the Chinese, where you've got 1, 2 deer packs, you've got 1, 2, or technically you've got 3 deer packs, 2 berries, and I'm sure that there was probably more berries around here somewhere. This Chinese player is feeling very good. He's also gone for the farm transition as well. Beautiful farms. Can I just say that much? Blue, yeah, I'm liking your farms quite a lot here. So, we're gonna continue aiming for that farm transition, though. We want to get that. Ideally, you want to get your food income really starting to push quite early on. So now that we've got the food income rolling in, we've started to build up a little bit of a unit mass here. We're feeling good about ourselves, about our defense. This is where we can look to focus more on our infantry. We can start the spam. So I'm doing a nice little blend here of spears, palace guards. The only reason I'm adding spears here is just because we're up against a Joan of Arc player, and they have a proclivity to go into cavalry because of the School of Cavalry. So I'm just making sure. At the moment, we can see it's just pretty much crossbow, men-at-arm, or arbaletier, men-at-arm. But for the moment, we're just going to make sure that we've got that covered, just in case. So we're also going to look to add in springalds. Now, normally when you're playing up against people, I would recommend don't make springalds unless you see springalds. If you see springalds, then you back away from them. Try and keep your nest of bees safe. Add in springalds, and then look to attack them once you've got your springalds complete. Normally 2 to 3 springalds is going to be more than enough. Because they are clock tower springalds, they've got extra health on them. The other thing that you want to do is make sure you don't expose your springalds. So in this situation here, when I'm defending, these rams have come forward. And it's a great opportunity for me right now to begin attacking them with the springalds. But when I do that, I immediately tell my opponent that I've got springalds. At the moment, they don't have much of an idea what I've got. They know I've got nest of bees. They've seen that, but they don't know about the springalds. And that means they kind of sit in the dark with regard to that. So we show our nest of bees right now. You can see 4 nest of bees. Springalds move up as soon as we see our enemy springalds are in position, and we're going to focus them down. At the same time, we're looking to try and defend this attack that's coming. The battering rams are focusing down the town center, so we're going to repair on the backside. And the nest of bees, we're going to look to try and clear out any of the infantry that's here, and the springalds are going to focus down the siege. And that is how we hold right there. Really, this was quite an easy hold. I wasn't concerned at all. I knew from the beginning of the attack. I said, you know what, we're fine. We've got enough space, and you know why that is? That's because of this bad boy right here. This Barbican has slowed our opponent down enough that we've managed to achieve quite a lot while they were in a difficult spot. So we've spotted out where all of the opponents are, and now we can formulate a plan. Remember that we want to try and take people out as much as we possibly can, but we also need to worry about ourselves. So my thinking is we're going to take out pink, and then from there we're going to look to take out teal, because there's nobody else that can really look to take out teal. So we can just kind of leave him there and let him simmer for a little bit. My fear is that if we leave pink, not only will he attack us again, but there's a potential that purple could look to strike and take him out, and that denies us of 50 population. We want to be aiming to get as many kills as we can during these games. So what we're going to do is bring all of our battering, or bring all of our infantry here, and we're going to start making battering rams. This is really, really important. And one of the things that we do is we just tell the battering rams to go and attack where the king is. We don't micromanage them any more than that. Just, hey, battering rams, go put pressure on wherever that king is. And then that way, we don't have to think about the battering rams, but our opponent does have to think about the battering rams. So we'll continue moving forward. We continue adding in farms behind this. Any relics that you've got in your base, like this one, just add in a monastery. Look to pick them up slowly and continue that push forward. So Mangonel's going to come out. Not really that impactful here, just mainly because we're not running ranged units. We're running melee infantry units. That's blue with, I think, 300 population now, by the way. He's getting pretty scary up there. And now we're going to look to focus down the springalds on the back. Remember that we've got the clock tower springalds, so they are always going to survive more effectively against normal springalds. And now once the battering rams make it to the town center, the king is under pressure. Now remember, with palace guards, you've got plenty of movement speed, but one of the things that you want to do is prepare for the run. Okay, you want to be aware that your opponent may look to run their king, and make sure that you're in position. They're not going to run this direction because all your army is over here. So the only real way he can go is down here. So we want to try and bring units to cover, and we can see just as we were bringing more units to that top side, that's exactly when he was going to go for it. So we've got to make sure that we prepare for that, and then once the king is out, it's all eyes on the king. Or at least I say that. Do as I say, not as I do. All eyes on the king, and then we try and surround him, and then just get a nice little right click there on top of the king. It can be hard to hit that hitbox though, but once that king is down, very relieving. And immediately now what we do is look to cover our defenses. So we need to move everybody back straight away. So that's going to be the focus. We're going to look to try and bring everybody back into the base. We need to go take out Teal. Once we've taken out Teal, then we can think about going towards Imperial. We can kind of do them at the same time. We're going to add in a whole bunch of production. Now, when it comes to putting down your production as the Chinese, it's pretty simple. Basically, here you've got a grid with the Imperial Academy. You want to put down a barracks, so you can put one down right on the corner. You want to do one tile in from each corner, or from the corner. So it basically, if we have a look here, you can see right here, there is one tile free. Do that, and then just build every barracks square to that. And that will allow you to fit 32 barracks within the influence of the Imperial Academy. And that will just guarantee that throughout the game, you're going to have the most attacks possible, because those barracks are always going to be producing spearmen or palace guards. And it's basically a nice little rebate that you get. Every palace guard, instead of it costing 25 gold, it only costs 17 gold. So that's always a good way to think about it. And on top of that, spearmen, when you build them, give you gold. So you get 8 gold from them. So now we're going to look to focus down our next neighbor. We know where the captain is, the commander. He's over in this town center, so we're going to go head over there. One of the things that we want to do is work towards 250 population. It's really important that once you've got access to more population, you try and fight with more population. It's only because we want to try and hit him before Imperial Age that we are pushing right now, and he does hit Imperial Age as we're doing it, and that's only because he's playing the English, and we want to make sure that we're able to clear out the king before that big landmark comes in, the Berkshire. Because if that is the case, we're going to need a lot of rams to take it down. So that's what our focus is going to be now that we know that he's Imperial. Now that we know that the king is over here, we can see that the king has been spotted out over here. We're going to have to throw more and more battering rams down to help us out here with defending. Keep in mind, whenever you eliminate somebody or take over their base, it's really a good idea to have a monk that you've got hotkeyed. In my case, what I do, and this is pretty easy, you press Control-Shift-A, and that selects all your units, and then just press Control and click. So Control-Shift-A, and then Control and click on my monk, and that's going to select my monk. And then I can just come in, and I can just rally him over here, and then tell him to come back and drop off this relic back in the monastery. So that's what I'm going to be looking to do here. That way you've got a relic for the rest of the game. And you know, relics do start to add up. So we're already on 2 relics. We picked one up from our base. We picked one up from the French base. Now we're going to go pick one up from the English base. And hey, 3 relics, that ain't bad. One of the things to note is that if you don't do that, there's a good chance your opponent might go and do that. You know, somebody else might scout that one out. It's very common that people will put outposts down. And if you see a relic, well, there's a good chance that they might just go and pick it up. So we'll speed it up a little bit. We've now reached Imperial Age. Let's talk about some of the important technologies you want to get once you hit Imperial Age. First and foremost, elite upgrades. So we want to be getting our elite Palace Guard upgrade. We also want to be getting our Battle Hardened upgrade, which increases the health of the Palace Guard. On top of that, we want to look for the unique upgrade at the Spirit Way, which is going to increase our villager gather rate by quite a bit. Can be up to 16%, which is very nice. We want to get all of our tier 3 upgrades for our lumber camp, mill, and our mining camp. We also want to get pyrotechnics at the archery range, which is going to increase the range of our hand cannons by 1.5. Makes them the best hand cannons in the game, in my opinion. Arguably, probably up there with the English, or maybe even the Order of the Dragon hand cannoneers. The extra range is just... I think for high skill situations, the extra range just makes such a difference. But at the same time, at low skill levels, it can also make a big difference as well. So here we're looking to snipe out the king. We see that he's out, so we were going to try for a snipe. Didn't manage to find it, unfortunately. But it's okay. We'll just take him down the good old-fashioned way. Battering rams, all that good stuff. Meanwhile, behind this, we're going to add in more production. So lots and lots of production here. You don't need a lot of archery ranges. You just need a steady flow of hand cannons. The idea is that we want to keep about a 2-to-1 ratio of ranged or of melee units to ranged units. So, you know, 50 palace guards, 25 hand cannons. 100 palace guards, 25 hand cannons, 25 grenadiers. Because you can definitely mix in grenadiers. I think it's actually quite nice in FFAs to mix in grenadiers. I've seen a lot of success with grens, and I've seen people with grens have a lot of success. So I'm definitely a big fan of the unit. So now that we've picked up our second kill, we're pretty happy, because being on 300 pop, it kind of guarantees that you're going to be able to contest anybody in the late game. So now it really just comes down to playing the perfect game. So what we're going to look to do, secure up our king. We're at the 30-minute mark now, so it's starting to get to that point in the game where we probably want to secure up our king. We've only really found the space to do it, you know, in the last 5-10 minutes. We've taken out the Joan of Arc player. We've taken out the English player. We've got plenty of space now. And everybody else is on the other side of the map. So this feels very, very good. The key now becomes about resources. We want to fight over resources. We want to secure resources. Something that you really don't have to do as the Holy Roman Empire anywhere near as much as the Chinese. But something that the Chinese are incredibly good at is securing resources. And that's because of their landmark in the Imperial Age, or rather in the Castle Age, it's the Imperial Palace, which gives a whole bunch of line of sight, but also gives you map hacks. That's correct. Perfectly legal map hacks. So our next target's going to become purple. He's naturally going to be our next target because he's the closest to us. We normally want to focus on people that are closest to us because they've got a shorter distance to attack us. So therefore, they've got a higher chance of surprising us. Whereas somebody like Blue, not really going to surprise us, right? He's got a long way to march his army. And once we've taken out the army, he's probably not going to have too many reinforcements for a while. So one of the things that we're going to be looking to do here is, as purple is pushing on us, there's a couple of different competing factors. Number one is we want to try and get to maximum population as quickly as we can. We want to try and hit 300 pop, because remember, if you're fighting with an extra 50 units, that means that, you know, if we look at Lancaster's Square or Lancaster's Law, it means that our units are going to be able to kill the enemy faster, and therefore more of our units will survive. So we want to try and max that one out as quickly as possible. And you can see it's going to be a little bit of a delay here before we actually get units in the queue. So we'll go pick a fight right now because we really want to... So this is where I mentioned the competing priorities. We really want these resources. We don't want these resources to go over to our opponent. It is very much like a 1v1 in that situation, that we're controlling resources here as much as we can. So once again, battering rams, just focus, right-click on the enemy, on the moneymaker. That is the keep. And then from there, we're just going to look to keep these guys alive. So if they do, so we can see we're not doing a very good job of keeping them alive, but we only push forward once we realize, you know what, we're gonna have to do this the hard way. Because one of the things to note is we want to take this down before the cannon emplacement comes through. Because once the cannon emplacement comes through, it does a lot more damage. There's also the prospect of a town center being thrown down, so emergency repairs can come online. Just makes it so much harder and more likely that the opponent will retain this. So we really want to do our best to keep it. So cannon emplacement comes in, but fortunately, we're able to take it down before any real damage can be done. And now we look at walling up our entire base. So we see that purple's now picked up 50 population. That was actually a king donation that he got from yellow. So blue was killing yellow on the top side here. And you can see that the blue, his army is here. He was about to pick up this kill. Why is that town center still orange? I guess I must have scouted it out earlier. Yeah, yellow just walked his king over to purple and just said, what civ is he playing? It looks like the Holy Roman Empire. These guys were sticking together. He said, yo, purple, look to the top of my base. Well, look at the top of your base. And then I just saw the king die like 12 seconds later. And then he said in the chat, there's also relics in my base. Go take them. Meanwhile, I think blue's just setting up. Yeah, look at this. He's throwing down just a couple of monasteries and pagodas here, just to pick up a few relics. So pretty smart gamer move right there. Now purple's in a bit of a tough spot, right? Because blue and I are very far away from each other. So naturally, it's going to be less likely that we attack each other because we're further away. He's kind of piggy in the middle here. So it means that he's going to have to do a bit of a hard defense here. If we take a look at him, he is 250 pop when it comes to his army at the moment. So he's moving towards the top side. He's just attacked me, and now he's going to be looking to clear out blue. This is an interesting move, and definitely if he had more lens... How many lens connect does he have? He's got 17. Actually, that's fine. With high lens connect numbers, he should be able to clear this out without too much of an issue. As long as he should be attacking into this. There's 64 hand cannoneers. That is a lot of hand cannoneers, actually. I didn't realize there was that much of it. Normally, you don't see this many hand cannoneers. Normally it's a lot less. It's normally Palace Guard centric, Palace Guard focus. So land snakes might have a little bit of a tough time with it. He's still doing work. The problem is he's going to have to replace all of this army. And well, let's just put it this way: there's a pretty big army to the south that is looking pretty mean. So let's ride on board with us and take a look at and see exactly what we're doing. So we've gone and aged up with the Spirit Way. We've then gone into the Ming Dynasty. So I'm just going to pause it because in the Ming Dynasty, you get extra 10% health. So that's really nice, right? Because it means that your Palace Guards have got a huge health pool to work with. Now, I don't actually think... Yeah, we don't actually have elite army tactics right now, so they have a much larger pool than this. But we don't care about that. We care about Yuan Dynasty, which increases the movement speed of villagers, officials, and military units by 15%. So think about it like this. Not only are my military units now faster, which means they can get into position, it means that my Springolds are going to be able to retreat faster, my Rams are going to be getting into position faster, my Palace Guards can chase down kings faster. It also means my villagers are now moving faster. It means that they're dropping off their resources more effectively than what they were previously. So that's always something to consider as well. But always in the late game, I know that people think of Ming Dynasty as like the best one to go for. Normally what I like to do is go into Ming Dynasty so that I unlock Grenadiers, so that I get the extra 4% from my Spirit Way technology. And then after I've done that, then I go into the Yuan Dynasty for that extra movement speed. Nothing that stops you from keeping up or staying in the Yuan Dynasty for a little bit. So as you can see, we've used our technology to locate where the enemy villages are. This is really important to do because what I want to start doing is sending out little groups of units to just go and attack that. The trouble is that on this map, there is quite a bit of a natural wall that is going to be stopping me from doing that. It is impossible to actually get through there right now. I'm completely walled out of that position. So it's physically impossible for my units to get over there. But that's okay because we'll make a new hole. So blue is going to start fighting up against purple. And it sucks, but that's just the way that FFA goes. But we're gonna go look to hit purple from the bottom side here. One of the things to note is we're doing king checks the whole time. We're always checking where the king is. We need to know where the king is because that's going to be our focus on where we want to attack. So we're going to look to come through here on this side. If we take a look at purple, he's only just realized that he's under attack over here. He is technically maxed, which is good. Right, like he wants to be maxed. Is he making... Ooh, look at this. You cheeky little purple. He was coming in for a nice little flank, I guess you could call it, on this angle. So very, very smart of him to be doing that. But unfortunately, he's not going to have the time. Emergency keep now going to be thrown down here. A lot of villagers. He's got plenty of resources in the bank here. But unfortunately, our army's pretty big, and we've got plenty of battering rams. So naturally, he moves his army back immediately, realizing that he's under attack. And of course, if we ride on board our battering rams, we're just going to go tell them to attack the keep. But I realize, because there's a gap... So if we take a look here, I'm just going to pause it, or mute it rather. Because there's a gap between these two, the king actually can't pop out and then immediately go into the keep. He has to walk a little bit and then go across. If they were immediately adjacent to each other, so like this as an example, the king can quite literally just pop out on this side, and then you can tell him to jump into this building, and he will just do it. He doesn't even need to move. And so essentially, we're taking advantage of that and moving in between these two keeps. It's also a little bit of a scary move because you're now subjecting yourself to double boiling oil. So you definitely need to make sure that if you're taking out a keep like that, that you're going to be able to take it out. So we've got a lot of units here. You know, we've got 74 palace guards. We've also got the bombards that are working down the keep, but he does have advantage or things going in his favor. He's got emergency repairs that is about to come through, and that's going to slow our progress down. He's also got Lanch Connector that are doing work through here, and that's something that I become a little bit scared of. I'm like, oh, I say to myself, this actually isn't going to work because he can just tell the king to come to the top side right here and then just walk the king over to this keep. And then I'm stuffed, right? Like he holds. But unfortunately for him, he puts his king out the wrong side. He puts it to the back, and he looks to run it out the back, which is great for me because the keep has just gone down, and it means we can now just simply look to attack the next building that it's gone into, which is the Swabia. He's obviously got a whole lot of units back here, but we got plenty of siege, more than enough to take out this building, and we're still working on taking out this Swabia. Keep in mind, we're also rallying in more units from this, but it's going to take some time. Ideally, we want to get the kill right now. It's very important that when you go for a kill that you just 100% go for that kill. So he, once again, moves the king too early. You know, his units could have gotten over here, but moves the king too early, and unfortunately, right on the buzzer, the king goes down. Which leaves us in a wonderful spot. We're now at 350 population. We're up against the other Chinese player that's left in the game. He was trying to get this kill so badly, but unfortunately for him, he comes up empty-handed. He's had a really good early game. He took people out, but unfortunately, the king donation that happened here, where yellow gifted the king away over to purple, meant that he was denied that 50 population. On top of that, it was just bad timing, where I was able to attack purple. Blue, he kind of looked to regather himself or recompose himself, I guess is probably the best way to say it. And as a result, it just meant that he missed out on the kill. We were able to pick it up. So even though we've had a really hard early game, we're still able to make a very, very strong late game. The main thing that we want to look out now for at this stage is a surprise. So what's the biggest way that we could die here? We could die from landmarks, but the reality is we've got lots of landmarks and they're very far away from each other. So the risk of a landmark snipe is quite low. The other way that we could die is a king snipe. Now, we've got our king pretty safe here. Not only is he behind an internal layer of walls, we've also got an external layer of walls. But I want to go one step further. Not only do I want to have walls, I want to have vision. I want to know. I don't want to just hope. I want to know that there are no units coming to surprise me, because there very well could be right now an entire army in this area. I don't have control over these walls. I don't have any vision on the inside here. I've got no idea what's over here. Fortunately for me, it's only the base of the English player that once used to live here, that is here. But we are going to look to make sure we fix that up. So more outposts are going to continue coming up, and you can see that we're throwing down outposts in every direction, even angles that you would think don't make sense, right? Like, why would we throw an outpost here? Well, it's because of this right here, Holy Roman Empire barracks. You know, we are almost aware of that. Maybe the next one will tell us, but you get the idea, right? So now that our opponent has begun attacking us, what do we want to do? We want to try and max out before our opponent hits us, but we're already at 330 pop. Now, one of the most important things that you do when you fight is don't trickle units in. Try and fight them all at the same time. So you can see even in that situation, we pulled units back and then we attacked, just to make sure that they all hit at the same time. We want to cover our siege. If your opponent is diving your siege, you want to make sure that you cover it, move the siege around your units, move your units on top of where your siege once was, try and keep them alive, because that's going to give you the best DPS throughout the game. So we absolutely destroy blue. We've got 319 population at the end of this fight. He's down to 208. So he's 208 out of 300. He's got no gold. He's got 4 vills on gold. He's got gold in his base, to be fair. So he does have the ability to move on to gold. And he's got a lot of resources in the bank. He's also picked up quite a few relics, so you can see this is going to be him picking up 2 relics. He's also got 1, 2, 3 back home, so that's 5 relics in total. But now we can start to play the game for serious. We can look to take the sacred site. Especially in one-on-one situations, you want to look to start taking the sacred site. It can be very difficult once your opponent's got the sacred site to deny them from that. So we just need to take the sacred site, wall it in. There's only one sacred site, and that's pretty much a guaranteed victory for us, because it's going to be very hard for him to attack into this unless he eats through this wall or eats through this wood line, and it's going to take him some time. Now that I look at it, I wonder if you could get through here. If you eat this tree, I say eat, if you chop this tree, I wonder if you could get through there. Probably not, though. Anyway, we've got a huge army at this point, and our opponent knows it. And I think he's probably doing some math in his head, and he's, thinking it out. Either that or he crashed, one of the two, because he is only making one hand cannoneer. And he throws in the towel. He realizes, you know what? I'm not going to be able to beat this guy anyway. We've got a huge army, huge population advantage, and of course, we're in prime position for the sacred site. So he leaves the game, but that is it. That's the general idea when it comes to playing the Chinese in FFA. It's a very linear process. We want to go Song Dynasty, 2 town centers, fast castle, look to try and get some kills with palace guards, farm transition at the same time that we're doing that. You can go a little bit earlier, you can go a little bit later. It's very flexible depending on how much food you've got. And then once we hit Imperial Age, continue looking for more kills, start securing resources with keeps. So you can see that we've got lots of keeps, or at least we had lots of keeps out on the map here, securing resources. This keep here was securing stone and gold. We want to try and secure those resources. And then once we've denied our opponent from resources, we'll be in a very, very good spot to take those last fights. When it comes to unit composition in the late game, palace guards, hand cannoneers, grenadiers, nest of bees, bombards. That'll keep you happy, that is for sure. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully you're a bit more competent now with the Chinese in FFA games. If you've got any questions, as always, leave them down below, and I'll make sure I check out the comments when this video goes live.